Hello. In this video, I would like to show what's the difference between the suggested approach, the stimulus response trainer, and the existing CBT tools, cognitive behavioral therapy tools. So there are two modifications that this tool offers. We define the response on multiple levels, and we focus on training the newly designed response, not remembering all the paths and reasons how we came to this newly designed response. In short, I elaborated on the first point in some other videos, but let me dive into more details here and show the differences with the CBT tools. This is so-called third record exercise, one of the classic CBT tools, and it's widely spread, very often recommended, always in all basic in books on like introducing the CBT, introduction to CBT, relatively classic for all kind of CBT online marathons, workshops, and trainings, part of the standard package that a CBT therapist would typically give to the client in the course of the 10 sessions. You have basically this recommendation of the exercise, and the guidance for the exercise is: first the client formulates the stimulus. So where were you, what happened, very specific situation should be described here in keywords, few words, then describing what's the feeling and the emotion that was rising during the situation, and then uncovering the thought logic behind this feeling and emotions, what kind of negative thought, negative emotions were there, and what kind of automatic thoughts were there that were behind the emotions, so not recognized thinking and the contemplation process, but rather something that was behind the fast and quick emotional reaction. What other quick automatic thoughts were behind the emotion that the situation triggered? Now, next step is to unpackage these automatic thoughts and basically formulate the evidence for these negative thoughts and the evidence against these negative thoughts. By the way, here it doesn't have to be always positive, like negative thoughts, right? It can be that the person wants to adjust his overly positive reaction to something. For example, temptation, desire to eat something sweet, or enjoy something. Potentially there are feelings of excitement and really positive reaction towards some situation. Behind that, there's some very positive automatic thoughts that can be again looked into through the prism of evidence, and the evidence for the positive thought can be formulated, as well as the evidence against the positive thought. So this is something that is unpackaged. And finally, the next step is to formulate alternative balanced thought. Something that is more balanced, that really accounts for all the sides of these thoughts. As a result, the new feeling, new emotion is formulated. So something for the specific situation. Basically, in the end, what is possible to do is formulate the new balanced thought regarding the situation and a new feeling and emotion regarding the situation, right? That is kind of concluded from the alternative balanced thought. For example, if before it was extremely negative emotion, then from the more balanced thought, there's less negative emotion, or maybe even neutral feeling or emotion is formulated as an outcome of the situation. So that's the exercise, 7 columns thought record, several different names for this exercise. Usually, 7 columns is part of the name of the exercise. Here, this classic exercise consists of stimuli, description of the old response, right, on emotional level, thought level, then restructuring exercise, that's this, evidence for, evidence against, and probably the balanced thought, and formulation of the new reaction, which is, okay, this new balanced thought and the new emotion. So that's the new reaction that is kind of formulated for the situation. If I look into more details here, so stimulus, situation, description of the old response. I'm basically formulating my old emotions, old thoughts. Then I'm restructuring this with the arguments against, and new thought formation, evaluation of emotion, and you have this final new reaction, which is new thought, as well as basically new emotion, right? So probably here additional point to add for the final row, it's like new reaction is in the end we formulated new thought and new emotion. Simple as that, right? The CBT exercise helps to design the new thoughts. So there was old thought plus old emotion, and there's new thought and the new emotion. There are two problems with that. So it helps to design the response only on the level of thoughts. So the response is designed on the level of thoughts, just to give a bit more fairness to the tool. Okay, let's say that not only the thoughts but also the emotions, right? So the tool allows you to design the response on the level of thoughts and emotions. Okay, let's be generous here. Helps to design but does not help to train this newly designed reaction. I mean, in this exercise, where is the training part that basically that the path towards this new thought and new emotion gets shortened? Or it's always you have to run through all these 7 columns, and by repeating this 7 columns exercise, basically you train this path, which is first you get the old emotion, then you get the old thoughts, then you unpackage the old thoughts in arguments for, arguments against, then the balance and the new motion. So do you really want to train this path of 7 columns every single time? And by repeating this exercise, especially with the new situations and similar situations one by one, again, you already know by heart all your 7 columns, but you continue traveling through these 7 columns. That few key modifications, right? First is we define the response on multiple levels, not just level of thoughts, and if we're generous, on the level of emotions, right? And we focus on training this new pair of stimulus and response. We keep the CBT tool to review the pair that we trained, right? But we focus with the recommended tool, stimulus response training, we focus on formulating the reaction on multiple levels and training it. Let me show on the more levels of details. So here's the suggestion. The stimulus. Now, all these old parts here that you saw in the previous, decomposition of the classic CBT tool, this is all not part of the new tool. Just because, okay, if you want to unpackage all that and do this design thinking exercise, right? To go through all these steps to ensure that you design your new reaction, okay, use the old tool, unpackage all that, do all the description of the old response, expand your mind, then do all the restructuring, formulate a new thought and new reaction. And now the new tool focuses on just the pair, stimulus and the new reaction. So what, by this old situation, old stimulus, what do I really want to be triggered automatically? I want these thoughts to be triggered. I want these emotions to be triggered. I want these actions to be triggered. I want these values to be triggered. I want this role to be triggered. I want these memories to be activated and triggered. I potentially also want this vision to be triggered, this goal to be triggered. And I also want to get a feedback. When all these things are triggered, I want to give myself a cookie and say, yes, very good. So this pair, stimulus response, get better trained, memorized, kind of better stored, better connected to the rest. You have the positive rook. Okay, this was the right stuff to do. Let me remember that. Like a dog gets a command, does something. If it doesn't do it right, then there's no cookie. If it does it right, it needs a cookie. So the cookie here is the feedback that you give yourself for all these elements. That's the difference So once again, basically, the stimulus response training tool suggests formulate the stimulus and answer the question, what do you want your reaction really to be on all these levels? Important note here, it's not that we want um, to pretend that this is getting triggered. We don't want to mimic this triggering. We don't want to fake it until you make it thing. This we don't want. We just want to clearly remember, like clearly with this we want to be triggered automatically. What do we really want to happen as a reaction to this stimulus on all layers? On all layers, another key part, right? Because this fake it until you make it doesn't work just because you fake it. In essence, you fake it because you make it only on some layers. But maybe this is already adding a bit of complexity here. The main part is there is a stimulus. We formulate our new reaction on all layers to that specific stimulus.